Okay, so today, really quickly, so this right here shows you the actual drug use on college campuses versus what people think is happening. So never used, so marijuana never used. 62% males, 67% females, average 66.1%. So that's the actual amount who have never used marijuana. But this is what people thought was the case. So people thought 12% never used it. So they thought 88% of males had used marijuana. 8.7% of females had never used it. So they thought 92% of females had used marijuana. So you can see that people think everyone's taking this drug when that's really not the case. And so when you go to college, it can feel like everybody around you is trying marijuana, smoking cigarettes. It's not the case, though. You can see with this data that the majority of students don't do these things, but it feels like they do. And then these ones used 1 to 9 days. So out of a 30-day period, used 1 to 9 days during that 30-day period. And actual use, 10% of males had used it in the past 30 days for 1 to 9 days during that time. Females about the same. And then used 10 to 29 days during that time and used all 30 days. 3% of males, 1% of females had used it all 30 days. And then down here, it's all drugs combined. So this would be cigars, smokeless tobacco, all illegal drugs on here as well. But they don't include alcohol, cigarettes, tobacco from water pipe, so hookahs, shisha, and marijuana. I don't know why they didn't include those ones, but that's how they had it. So for the ones who never used any of those ones, 55% of males, 74% of females, average 68% had never used any of those drugs. But again, people thought it was a lot higher. People thought about 90% of males had used drugs and 91% of females had used drugs. Antonio? So there's a huge gulf between what actually is happening in college, what people think is happening in college. Okay, so yesterday we were talking about, let me see if we can find, I went through all of that already. I think we're right here. So if you smoke marijuana, THC is activated pretty quickly. Within 3 to 10 minutes, you get the peak. And it stays that way for a couple of hours, usually 3 hours or so. So it wouldn't be safe to drive until about 4 hours after smoking. At that point, you're back to the level where you are coherent enough you could drive. So smoking is pretty quick, but if you eat marijuana, it's a very delayed reaction. It could be 1 to 3 hours before you feel it. So because it's such a delayed reaction from eating it to actually feeling something, you would think it's not working if you're not used to it, and you might take a lot more than you need because you don't know the effects of it until it's 1 hour to 3 hours after the fact. So eating marijuana can be very, very dangerous. It's easy to overdose on it. Even people who are experienced can easily overdose because it's not, well, for one thing, it's hard to know how much you have in whatever you're eating. The amount of THC is not really controlled that well in edible marijuana. So it's hard to know how much you actually have. For another thing, what you have in your body, whether you've eaten or not, the kind of food that you have, medication you're on, all sorts of different factors will change how it's metabolized in your body, which will change how it affects you. So even those who are, they take it every day, for example, and they're used to it, there can be a wide variety of how it works from day to day for a person. It's not really predictable. And so you can have a 5 times difference of the amount of THC in your body from day to day based on metabolism and how your body is metabolizing the drug. So, and that's just, again, just because how your body works. But if that was the same amount every day, that's what would be the case. But also, it's really hard to control the THC levels in the food products. So it's not that regulated. And so it's hard to know what you're getting. It's hard to make, the amount of THC even throughout the entire, if you're like a loaf of bread or something, or a pan of brownies, it's hard to make sure it's even throughout the entire thing. So it's very difficult to know what's going to happen when you take edible marijuana. So smoking it is a lot safer as far as that goes, just because it's more controlled. But of course, smoking is still very dangerous, but it's definitely people think just the opposite. People think edible marijuana is somehow safer and not as dangerous, but it's just the opposite. It's a lot more dangerous for you than smoking marijuana. Because smoking, it's slow. It hits pretty quickly, so you know what the effect is. It's more predictable. But edible marijuana is not very predictable at all. It's not regulated, and so THC levels vary widely from dose to dose. And overdoses, so especially with this, you can have erratic, violent behavior with overdosing on edible marijuana. Also with smoking it, but especially with edible marijuana. So it can lead to panic attacks, heart attacks, paranoia, violent behavior, aggressive behavior. Okay, so that's all about THC. But CBD is also from marijuana plant, but it's not the same kind of substance. So it doesn't make you high. It doesn't change your personality. So THC is what causes the high, but CBD stands for cannabidiol, and that does not cause a high. Now it can treat anxiety. It can relieve pain, reduce inflammation. It can help you sleep at night. It's been shown to reduce seizures. So it has a lot of benefits or benefits that might help a person. It's still very new though, not really tested very much. So we don't know the full extent of what it can do and how helpful it really is for these things. But people have reported it does help for these situations. So it might be something that could help a person. And you don't get the high from it either. So it doesn't affect your brain functioning. So even though it comes from marijuana, it's a very different substance than marijuana. So as I mentioned yesterday, in a cannabinoid system, oh, and again, you can paraphrase these, so you don't have to, just get the main idea from it. You don't have to write down every single thing. But again, just the main idea that, anxiety, helps with insomnia, seizures, those would be the main things that it does that you should know about. So just to review from yesterday, in a cannabinoid system, it's a vast network that goes throughout your entire body that controls a lot of different parts of your body. It controls the immune system, your stress response, inflammation, memory, mood, energy balance, appetite. It controls also, I have to say it here, but also hormones, ovulation, sperm production. It controls almost every part of the body you can think of. And so because of that, marijuana can disrupt all of those systems. Well, CBD can actually do the opposite. CBD actually can help with that system, make it function better. So what CBD can do is help the cannabinoids not be broken down. So THC blocks the cannabinoids from going into the channels where they're supposed to go, and it disrupts that system. But CBD might actually help that system work better. It helps the cannabinoids not be broken down.
Wait, so we want the yellow stuff to?
Yeah, the yellow stuff is what your body makes to keep your body in balance.
Okay.
Yeah, and the THC that comes in blocks the yellow things that go into where they're supposed to go. They're supposed to go right here to keep your body in balance, but the THC blocks that. It makes things out of whack. But CBD has been shown to actually help them not be broken down, and it helps them go where they're supposed to go.
Are most drugs like that? Do they do the same thing? Where they block the yellow stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the drug you're talking about, but a lot of drugs will do that. Will they'll block a certain receptor?
So, and does the THC, it goes away after a few weeks if you have a lot more fat?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it depends how much you've taken, how long you've taken it for. If you just taken it once, it goes away in a day or so. But if you take it every day for a while, yeah, it'll take a few weeks at least for it to go away. So while THC will bind the receptors, the CB1, CB2 receptors, what you're seeing right here, CBD doesn't do that. So THC does bind there and blocks the cannabinoids from going to where they're supposed to go, but CBD will not. CBD actually might help the process. It's still, again, this is very new science, so we don't know a lot about this and how much this is really happening, but it seems to indicate that CBD can help this process and help your body function better in certain situations. Now, there are some side effects of CBD if you take too much of it, especially. So there has been nausea, fatigue, irritability reported, blood thinning, liver damage. So this would all be generally if you take too much of it. It's not regulated either, and so it's hard to really be sure how much you're getting in a certain dose. So you're not guaranteed that it's pure and that the amount that it tells you is actually what you're getting. It's also very new, and so there's still a lot of more research that should go into it before we can be confident about what it will do for the body. So it's hard to know the effective dose, how much you should take, and what that will do in your body.
Do they have like death penalty for CBD?
They do, yeah. You can take it by a shot, or you can take it. People smoke it, which is pretty dangerous, but people will do that. There's also gummies, other ways to eat it, but there's a lot of different ways that. But yes, they do. I think I have a picture of that on here.
Is that legal?
Yes, in most states.
Texas it is.
Yes, most states it is legal. They also have drops, which, yeah, sorry. So they have it like this, where you can take drops of it. Yeah, they have an injection. You can see right here. Actually, it says oral solution. Never mind. But I think they also have injections. But I guess mostly it's oral transfer instead of injections. It depends what you need it for. But smoking it can definitely be dangerous, and that's not recommended. So in 2017, they looked at a study of CBD products, and about 70% of them did not have the advertised amount of the CBD. So it just varied. I don't know. I didn't really read to see if there was more or less. I'm not sure, but it just didn't have the amount that they said it had.
What about now?
But I haven't heard a recent study. That was the last study that I saw that was looking at the products and how much they had. So I don't know if they did anything since then. We could assume it'd be better now, but I'm not sure. 20% contains THC, which is a problem because that's what makes you high. And that could lead to brain functioning problems. It could lead to seizures if you are prone to seizures, anxiety problems, panic attacks. So people take CBD sometimes for seizure treatment, but THC would actually make seizures worse. So it will be important to make sure that if you're taking CBD for anxiety or seizures, that you don't have THC in it, because that will go against what you're trying to do. There's two main species of cannabis. There's hemp and marijuana. Hemp contains mostly CBD, 20% CBD, with only 0.3% THC. So it's designed to be low in THC, high in CBD. So you might have heard about hemp or hemp products before. So it's a kind of plant that has a lot of CBD, but not much THC. Marijuana is just the opposite. It contains a lot of THC, 20% THC. Yeah.
Wait, are hemp seeds from that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if you ever hear of hemp, I mean, it's this plant, the cannabis plant, that contains mostly CBD and not much THC. But marijuana has some CBD, 10% CBD, but a lot of THC. So one promising thing from CBD is it can treat seizures or epilepsy. So Dravet syndrome is a severe form of epilepsy. Usually begins shortly after the baby's born, and it has chronic seizures. It can be daily seizures. It's hard to treat. There really aren't many good options to treat it. Usually by their teen years, they are in a wheelchair.
So this is from the mom smoking weed?
No, this is just a genetic condition, not related to drugs at all.
Oh.
But CBD has been shown to treat
Yeah, it
this.
literally says CBD and drugs.
Yeah, I know, but this is actually, so CBD has been shown to treat this symptom and help it.
Oh.
So that's what I'm talking about here. But I don't know it's just genetic. It's just a birth defect. So it's a very debilitating illness. Usually 20% teens, they die before the teen years. So it's very progressive, very aggressive, and it's hard to do anything for the person who has this. Thankfully, it's very rare. 1 in 15,000 have this condition, so that's incredibly rare. But one famous person who had this, have you heard about her before? Charlotte Figge. So she, at age 5, had a seizure every 30 minutes. And she started taking CBD oil, and it went down to once per week. So, and it made CBD oil based off, named after her, Charlotte's Web, because it helped her so much. And now after that, they've now made into a medicine form you can take that treats seizures. So there is, one use for CBD that has been shown to really work well with seizures, epilepsy. The other things, insomnia, anxiety, it's not as proven, but there is some evidence that also can help you for those things. But where it gets dangerous would be if you take it in vape form. If you smoke it, then that can lead to all kinds of problems. But drinking it, eating it, it's been shown to be pretty safe. So vaping has increased a lot over the past couple of years. In 2017, 28% of people by their senior year, had smoked marijuana, had smoked something. 37% of high school seniors in 2018 had smoked something through a vape. And then lifetime use of a vape pen, you can see it's also increased too over the years. 35% in 2017, 42% 2018, 55% in 2019. So it's a very prevalent thing in high schools. There's all different kinds of vape pens. It just shows you how it works. If you have an LED light at the end to show when it's being drawn in, you have a sensor right here and a heater that heats up the oil right there. It's an epidemic though, because a lot of people are hospitalized from vaping. About 3,000 people per year are hospitalized and get severe lung disease from vaping. In most cases are in your teens or in your 20s when this happens. Heard about popcorn lung before? So that comes from vaping. And you basically are suffocating. You can't get oxygen to your body. Your lungs are scarred, permanently scarred and inflamed from this. Now, they're not for sure exactly why it's happening. They think there's some contaminant in the vape pens that causes this to happen. Maybe some oil-based.
I heard it was the coolant.
Yeah, so it could be, it could be that. It could be propylene glycol. It could be the oils. It could be vitamin E oil. It could be CBD, THC oil. They're not for sure. There's a lot of different ideas about what it could be, but they haven't really narrowed down to just one thing yet. But yeah, it definitely could be the coolant. But it's not regulated by the FDA either. And so we don't know for sure what's in each substance. And there are all kinds of contaminants that could be in a vape pen that you don't know you're taking. But the biggest issues are definitely with THC products. And the ones bought off the street and pop-up stores, so places where you just are not regulated, that just come and go, don't stay in one place for too long. It's probably the oils that are in the THC that most likely are the reason for popcorn lung.
Oh, so is popcorn lung only from the THC ones? Or
Well, it's most prevalent in THC products. It can be in other ones besides the THC based ones, but the common factor seems to be THC products, but it could be other ones too. So what's happening probably is that when you smoke it, the oil becomes a vapor, but then you inhale it, it goes back into a liquid, gets into your lungs that way. So you have oil droplets in your lungs, which then inflame your lungs, cause damage, which then cause suffocation. It can lead to stomach problems too. So you can inhale this, it can get into your intestinal tract and cause irritation in your intestines as well. So it can irritate your intestines as well as your lungs.
So there's no way to get rid of the oil in your lungs?
Yeah, it's very hard to do that. Yeah, basically, once it gets to your lungs, it's going to lead to inflammation and damage and scarring in your lungs. And that's permanent damage at that point. Vitamin E oil has been shown to be one common factor too in vape pens that leads to lung inflammation and lung scarring. Along with propylene glycol, glycerol, and those can turn to formaldehyde in the body when heated. Those can become cancerous. So these chemicals can lead to lung inflammation, lung scarring, which can lead to breathing problems, suffocation. At that point, it's irreversible damage. And you'll probably be, if it gets to that point, it can become fatal. If it's not fatal, it's going to impact you for life. There is no way to unless you have a lung transplant, there's no way to reverse that damage in your lungs. And besides just that, I mean, if you take nicotine products in vape pens, nicotine is very dangerous to take. It's highly addictive and it harms the brain too, especially if you're still developing your brain. So before age 25, nicotine is going to impact your brain development. And it's been shown to really harm the development of the brain before age 25. It kills brain cells, leads to memory loss, difficulty focusing and concentrating. It hinders motivation. So that's any kind of nicotine product, whether it's smoking a cigarette or vaping. Nicotine really impacts how your brain functions.
Wait, is breaking a nicotine habit harder than like an alcoholic?
It can. I mean, it depends on the person. They're both very hard, and they're for different reasons. So they're both very addictive and very hard to quit. Usually, I mean, if you were to choose one, nicotine usually is the hardest of the two, but it really depends on the person. But it's very hard to quit nicotine, and also alcohol if you're an alcoholic. They're both very hard to quit.
Do you get to the point with withdrawal systems from nicotine?
That's why it's so hard to quit nicotine, because you just feel terrible if you stop taking it. And so people tend to gain a lot of weight after they've quit smoking. They feel very irritable. They have bad headaches. They can't focus, and they want to go back on it because they feel better when they take it. And so withdrawal is very brutal. Whether it's alcohol withdrawal or nicotine withdrawal, it's very brutal. It's very hard to get through that. Now, even the ones that say are nicotine free still have been shown to contain nicotine. So it is hard. Again, these are not really regulated. And so it's really hard to be confident what you're getting in you smoke a vape pen. Because especially if you get a cheap one off the street, it's really hard to be confident that you're going to get things that are not contaminants that are going to harm you. So people think about vaping as something that's cleaner or safer than cigarettes. It's really not, though. Cigarettes are regulated. So at least with cigarettes, you know what you're getting. With vape pens, you really don't know what you're getting most of the time.
What if they're on brand?
Yeah, if you buy something that like Juul is supposed to be a high quality one, you can be more confident in a Juul product than the ones off the street. But still, it's still not safe to take it. But it's a lot safer to take a Juul than something that you don't really know the brand of off the street somewhere.
Well, I thought it was the other way around. One cigarette is like 5 Juul pods.
No.
Well, because have you ever watched those videos of like what your lungs look like after smoking?
Oh, you mean about the amount of tar? That's what you're saying.
Oh.
This the amount of nicotine and how long this lasts for is equal to a pack of cigarettes.
Okay.
But the amount of tar building up in your lungs is probably what they mean. Which, yeah, that would be different.
So in the end, for your body, it would be worse to take cigarettes, but
Well, if you look at just tar buildup on its own, cigarettes give you more tar buildup, but
is that worse
Juuls,
than taking nicotine?
sorry, what?
Is that worse than what the damage nicotine does?
Well, you get nicotine either way, right? I mean,
Yeah.
whether you're taking it, well, it
Well, I
depends.
mean, you were saying if there was no nicotine.
Yeah.
If it was
So even if
just-
there's no nicotine at all, it will still damage your lungs. There are still products in the Juul pod that are going to lead to lung damage. It won't be tar buildup. It won't make your lungs look black like with cigarettes, but it will lead to scarring in your lungs, inflammation in your lungs. It will still hurt your lungs, just in a different way than cigarettes will hurt.
Oh, well, wait, didn't Gordon Ramsay like quit drugs because he found out what was in them and like as a chef he was so like.
I didn't hear about that. But I mean, yeah, if you learn about what drugs do to your body, I mean, that can be really scary. because they wreck your body irreversibly. And yeah, if you learn about what happens when you drink too much alcohol, smoke cigarettes, it really does impact you, and it really does change your mindset, I think. Because drugs, any kind of drug, is a poison to your body, and it hurts your body to a large extent. So nicotine, when you take it through smoking it, goes to your brain very quickly in about 7 seconds. And so it's faster than heroin. Heroin takes 40 seconds to get to your brain. So it's a very fast high you get from smoking. And nicotine is very addictive for 3 reasons. So it gives you a rush of dopamine, which makes you feel good. If you stop smoking, you feel awful. You get severe discomfort during withdrawal from nicotine. And you have cravings for a long time after withdrawal. So those are the 3 reasons why quitting smoking is so hard to do. You also get a high tolerance from nicotine. So if you take nicotine, now most people who are smokers smoke a lot of cigarettes per day. Only 2% of smokers smoke just a few cigarettes per day. Most smoke a lot more than a few because they have tolerance building up. They need to take a lot of cigarettes to feel the same high that they got from before. And then also, there's more nicotine now than there used to be in cigarettes. Every year, it increased by 1.6% in the cigarettes.
Can you repeat what you said about the tolerance?
Well, as you take more and more, you need to get more to get the same high.
Okay, the buzz.
Yeah.
Okay.
That it just gets less effective. We see it in like caffeine, for example, it's the same thing. I mean, you get tolerance to caffeine too over time.
And even medicines.
Medicines, alcohol. So you get tolerance to all different drugs where the same amount doesn't work the same way on you. You need more to get the same amount of feeling that you used to. So they bred the tobacco plant to have now 2 times the amount of nicotine that it used to. So nicotine levels are increasing a lot over the years. And that leads to them being more and more addictive. Did you hear about the menthol cigarette ban recently? And so, they're thinking that, their idea is that anything that's flavored is more addictive, that it's you don't get the harsh effects, So their idea is that if you have menthol, it's not as harsh on your throat. You don't feel the choking sensation. And so,
is that why Trump banned all those?
yeah, the
foods?
flavored ones, yeah. It appeals to teens and kids. So that's the thinking behind that.
That's smart.
But it's we'll see if that lasts. I don't know. It's going to be hard to ban menthol cigarettes. Also, besides just the reasons I talked about with nicotine being addictive, it works in the same parts of the brain that are active when you are with somebody that you care about. And so you feel like you're with a friend. And so when you smoke a cigarette, you feel a sense of peace. You feel a sense of happiness. And so if you quit that, you want to go back to that same feeling. And so it becomes a way to cope with stress, cope with sadness. And that's why it's also hard to quit smoking. It's a comfort. How often you smoke will determine the effect of nicotine. So if you're a regular smoker, you first get a buzz. You first get a sense of of energy, and then it calms you down. But if you get a low dose of it, you are alert. If you get a high dose, you relax.
So like more nicotine versus less nicotine?
Yeah, so the amount you have in your body will affect how it works in your body.
Like,
So
are you talking about inhales or like the percent of nicotine that's in the?
yeah, both. I mean, the amount that's in your cigarette, but also just how quickly do you smoke it? How deeply do you inhale? Like those would all be factors that would affect. And how are you used to it? Are you tolerant to it? Or this is the first time you're smoking? So if you're a first time smoker, it's going to be a high dose for you. But if you are a long time smoker, it's going to be a low dose to you. So it can make your heart beat faster, increase blood pressure, constrict blood vessels, which can give you headaches. It can dampen your hunger, dull your taste buds, so things don't taste as good as they used to. And so that can lead to weight loss with smoking. People, when they quit smoking, one thing that usually happens is they gain weight for a few different reasons. One reason is that smoking helps your metabolism increase. It also damages your hunger. Yeah. So withdrawal symptoms would be irritability, cravings for nicotine, anxiety, increased appetite.
That last, when I'd say it increased the heart to,
Oh, 15 to 20 beats per minute.
isn't it way faster than that?
No, it increases it by that much.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, it's in the 90s to, yeah, that's right. 60s to 90s depends on the person, but right. I mean, that'd be almost dead if you, that's what, yeah, that's right.
How long does withdrawal last?
It depends on the person, but it usually takes a few weeks at least, if not months. It depends on how long you've smoked for, your body, how it responds to it. But yeah, withdrawal can be a long process. And it can even take years sometimes. You can still have the cravings and not feel yourself for years after you stop smoking, if you have smoked for a while.
And how long does it take for it to kick in?
For what to kick in?
Like how long do you have to be off it before you go in withdrawal?
Oh, it's pretty fast. Like within a day, you start to feel terrible. It's kind of like caffeine. Like, you ever had like, usually if you take caffeine every day and you stop for one day, you just feel awful the next day. I mean, it happens pretty quickly. Same thing with nicotine. You're going to feel bad pretty fast after you stop smoking. Okay, next is alcohol, which we'll get to tomorrow. So we have 5 minutes to go. Did you look at the article today on your desk? So if you want to read through that before class ends, and I got all your quiz, they're not really quizzes, but I got all these things.